It is the ShopNotes Podcast. Welcome, everybody, to episode number 230, also known as your dentist's favorite time, 230.
Boo.
There you are. That's it. All right. This episode of the ShopNotes Podcast is brought to you by Quick Screws. For 37 years, Quick Screws has been the trusted choice of professional and hobbyist woodworkers. Cabinet makers and furniture builders know that the right screw makes all the difference, which is why Quick Screws designs fasteners for specific woods and applications. The legendary Quick Screws pocket hole screw delivers secure, reliable joints with fine thread for hardwoods and coarse thread for general use, and high-low thread for softwoods and melamine. Want a screw that stops flush and eliminates chipping? Funnel Head does exactly that, making it the top choice for melamine and a great fit for all woods. From drawer fronts to installation and conformat screws, even exterior rated fasteners, Quick Screws are built for speed, precision, and reliability. Find the perfect screw for your shop or build at your local distributor or at quickscrews.com. All right. We'll get started in the usual way by checking out the old proverbial mailbox here for comments.
I was going through the comments recently, and we're at episode 230. And after going through the past week's comments, I just want to make sure my list of people we have offended or upset is updated. So I just want to go through it.
Okay.
So I have Intarsia makers. I've got red cedar users. Shopsmiths, oddly specific, but 70-year-old farmers with a personal home sauna that think our podcasts are too short and infrequent. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time I offended one of those people, I'd have 2 nickels, but it's not that frequent, but oddly specific. I got white epoxy coated drawer slide users now. We've offended.
As long as they have the nylon wheels.
People who think that Logan... Yeah. Let's be specific there. And then lastly, people who think that Logan talks too much. Which I think that's been pretty consistent throughout.
All 230 episodes. Hell yeah.
Yep. We warned everybody. So you got to let the peacock fly, though.
Yep.
So that's what I got. Is that what you guys got on your bingo cards?
Yeah, that's what I had. I was just trying to make sure that I was up to date as well. It's kind of like when you're watching a baseball game as a kid and you got the little box score thing on there and you're trying to keep up with your dad on that. So, but yes. Let's see. Read out a few comments here. Speaking of, Stevie W says, I'm a 78-year-old boomer woodworker, and I have used the white wheelie slides. Nothing wrong with them, you whippersnapper.
Oh, there's a lot wrong with them.
Yeah. Michael Bamonti says, as a frequent Walt Disney World visitor and woodworker, I'm always noticing furniture and fixtures that are out of the ordinary. One that immediately comes to mind are a pair of laminated and carved wood chairs in the lobby at Bay Lake Towers. They are a thing of beauty. So, looking for John Doyle to confirm that?
I have not been to the Bay Lake Towers at the Contemporary, so I'll have to check that out. I have seen the carved nanny chairs at I believe it's at the Yacht Club Resort at Disney World, so I'll have to check that out if I ever go back. I don't know if I will.
All right. Who knows?
That hyperfixation has passed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Puppy Doc Bob says he saw Logan's desk in the Pop Wood issue and it turned out really great. Now I have shop envy and desk envy. Thanks a lot.
Don't hate me because you hate me.
Right. Alfetta says, Phil, does the mounted coelacanth behind you talk like his great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandson Billy? And just over my shoulder right here in the jaws of I'm pretty sure it's a real fossil of a Triceratops head, is a muskie that Chris Fitch carved a number of years ago now. We have that as a video on our YouTube channel. I'm pretty sure we'll dig that up and put that on the show notes page, because Chris's carving skills are something else. It's a pretty cool piece of wall art. I think it actually needs its own place other than on the horns of Dilemma, our Triceratops. So, yeah. And for anybody who's coming to Woodworking in America later this fall, you'll be able to find both of those items here on the open house for that evening prior.
We can even take the muskie down and you can take a picture with it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's the same one that Logan took a picture with in the huge puddle of our old video studio parking lot.
John, everybody thought that was the Northwoods Lake until you said that. I mean, the dumpster behind me doesn't give it away, but
I mean, basically it was a lake. But
he also continues. He says, John is correct. We've replaced the worn-out European-style drawer slides with brand-new drawer slides because they work fine and go in with nothing but a screwdriver. One of those screwdrivers that has the compound head shaft thingy, where you have like a number 2 or number 1 Phillips or a wide, narrow slot blade. I don't know of self-closing drawer slides. I know there are soft closing drawer slides, which are overrated. If you install the slides right, they stay shut because they have a clicky mechanism thing. And order your slides online. If you go to the home center to get slides, they'll always have 1 pair less than you need for a project. True. It's a fact proven by quantum mechanics, like how the nut you drop while working on your car always rolls to the exact center underneath the car. Also true. Science. People, science.
Fundamental truths.
Yep. Let's see. And then from last week's episode, Jim Gilchrist writes, I've been struggling the last while and finally made the decision today to just unsubscribe. This has now reached the point of ridiculous. Just change the title and call it the Logan Whitmer Shop Build Podcast and move on. At least it would be truth in advertising.
Here's to you, Jim.
So
have fun.
Yep. 229 episodes. That's a maximum strength Logan. Yeah. Any more than that will kill you.
Yeah.
Au revoir.
Although I will say that I appreciate the fact that Jim's ridiculous point is that high.
Yeah. It's like, it should have been episode 3 that he figured that out.
Yeah. I mean, that's on him at this point.
Yeah. Although I will say, just as to the truth and advertising part, we are talking about shops and notes about building or equipping the shop. So I feel like, I mean, that's sort of the name of the podcast.
It's as advertised.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Plus, I mean, isn't it kind of just a thing where like the old guys at work just sit back and let the young guy do all the heavy lifting?
I mean,
like we've put our time in.
Right.
So. It's like let the young guy do it.
Bob also writes, just watched the Just Right bench video. Do you have a source for that tail vise? I might incorporate that into my workbench that I still haven't completed. Looks like a great little bench, very similar in size to the one I have under construction.
Yep.
So
it's from Lee Valley Veritas.
Yeah, it's called their Inset Vise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did put a link to it on the comments for that particular episode, for episode 229, but I'll put that in the show notes as well with a link to that video. Kind of excited because the next couple of days we're going to have a special guest in to do an e-learning course with us. Logan, you want to talk about that?
Yeah.
Briefly.
Yeah, I guess. Like, Mark, the founder of Bad Axe Toolworks, will be here filming an online course. The end. See, Jim? That's what you get. You asked for this.
No, Jim's gone. Sorry. Jim's gone. You can talk as long as you want now. Jim left. He's not listening anymore.
Oh, man. All right. Let's add Jim to John's list. Yeah, so we not only obviously do the magazine, this podcast, TV show stuff, but part of our offering that we do is online classes. Phil has a few of them available through Woodsmith. We have a few of them available through Popular Woodworking. One of which we are releasing this year is going to be with Mark, the founder of Bad Axe Toolworks up in Wisconsin. Mark has since retired and is now running his own little class setup. And we invited him to come down and spend a couple of days teaching a saw sharpening class. So that is what we are going to be filming. So if you're like me and have 38 hand saws on your wall, 2 of which are new, therefore sharp, and you need to sharpen the other 36, this is a great value. It's going to be a couple bucks per saw to get yours sharpened. And Mark is going to teach you how to do that. The nuances of sharpening rip and crosscut saws, and stuff like that. So it'll be very cool to sit here and watch a master sharpen some saws. We didn't really plan out with him on whose saws he's sharpening, so maybe I just bring a couple in by happenstance. So we'll see.
All right.
And just to confirm, that's Bad Axe saws. AXX.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All right.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited to have him down here. We've talked about him being here a number of times in the past. I think it would be great to do an event with him here and do one of his sharpening classes. So maybe once he's here, he can see how cool it is and want to come back. Because I think that would be
Or maybe he'll be sick of me in 30 seconds, Jim, and then never come back.
Right. Or that. All options are on the table right now.
Yep.
Also, don't get us started.
Yeah, you asked for this. Brought this upon yourself.
So going back to some of the comments and what we had talked about a couple of episodes ago about woodworking at Walt Disney World, I was wondering if you guys are ever, or how you guys are inspired by projects. Like when you go someplace, do you notice the woodworking? Or my practical example that I'll start with is my wife got me hooked on the masterpiece show, All Creatures Great and Small. I've read the books in the past and then just started watching the shows, I don't know, over winter when it was dark and cold and whatever. And the desk in Siegfried Farnan's office has just like grabbed hold of my brain in a way that I just really want to build something inspired by it. We already have 3 desks in our house and don't really need another one, but I sort of need to build a desk that's inspired by that one. So I don't know. John, you got anything? Have you ever seen a project?
Yeah. I mean, anywhere I go, I'm looking, like hotels, any kind of traveling, go to like furniture. Like we were in the Mana colonies last summer, stayed there, had hit all the furniture stores of the local, Mana furniture craftsmen and check out all the furniture. So yeah, just as a project designer, I'm looking for inspiration just about anywhere we go. So.
I mean, Logan, you on your desk that you're at right now, you added the Tree of Gondor on the door. So obviously there's a little bit of inspiration there.
Yeah, and like I agree. Like I'm always noticing furniture and stuff. Especially when it's not real stuff, if that makes sense. Like, a lot of the times, like, I'll be, like, watching, like, Lord of the Rings, for example, and be like, wow, like, the elvish designs in that movie for furniture, like chairs and stuff, like, super cool. Not practical. Nobody would ever build them and use them, but they're cool. The same way, like, I have a bunch of photos on my phone of, like, TV shows I've paused just to take a picture of a piece of furniture. One of them is, off the top of my head, there's a TV series called Supernatural. It was on CW for, 20 seasons or so. And in one part of the show, they have basically a home base or their house that they live in. And there's a bunch of big, long, let's call them library tables, for lack of a better term. It's coincidentally in their library. But they have these little craftsman-style lamps sitting on the desk. And for the longest time, like, I have a bunch of pictures on my phone, and I've actually, you can pull them up on Google. I wanted to build a couple of lamps based on that design. Obviously, some prop house somewhere has these lamps, and they were produced somewhere. So, at that point, you'd be taking inspiration from whoever originally manufactured it. But yeah, I'm always noticing stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I believe, if I recall this correctly, one of the benchtop organizers that we had, maybe it was in ShopNotes, Brian Nelson, one of the former editors, saw on a episode of, like, Criminal Minds or CSI that was on somebody's desk, and took a liking to it, and we have a project based on that.
Or
maybe one of those letters combinations,
right? I think
so. I have to go back and look, but yeah,
I'll put a link to that plan too. That was a kind of a fun little organizer. Yeah, one of the characters was a woodworker, and had a little basement shop or whatever where they always showed him fake woodworking. And Brian definitely took a shine to that little Lazy Susan organizer.
It was NCIS. He was a boat builder in his basement.
Oh.
There you go.
I was told I wasn't going to be fact checked.
Well, there it is.
Okay.
All right. There you go. Speaking of projects, I also have a little, and organizers. I'm working on a number of years ago. I rehabbed a bookcase from my grandma's house. I always remember it as a bookcase. The bottom shelf always had National Geographics from the 1960s down there. So whenever we went to visit Grandma, I'd pull out, one of those and sit in the porch and read old National Geographics, which is entertaining. I came to find out that bookcase actually used to be an old radio. And one of my uncles had torn all of the radio guts out of it, took the back off of it, and then had turned it around. So the back was now the front. And the back was now the front, added a shelf in it, and then instead of the grill work at the front of the radio, he just put wood grain contact paper on both sides of that panel. So when I discovered that, and after my grandma passed, I was like, I'm going to hold on to that. So we used it as a bookshelf for a while, and then I took the contact paper off, turned it back around, and then put veneer on what was the original front of it and turned that into 2 doors. That's the nightstand at my house now. And I wanted a little organizer in there to keep some notebooks and a drawer for pencils and bookmarks and that kind of thing. So I'm working on a little pine organizer for that. And for some odd reason, just decided to dovetail the case of it in 1/4-inch pine, which is an adventure. Not insurmountable, but just it's a curious technique to work on. I'm not normally a dovetail kind of person, so that's part of the reason is. Mm-hmm. And that's mostly just due to my Gen X rebelliousness of everybody making a big deal about being all uppity about dovetail. So I'm like, nope. There you go.
So I discovered
this
lamp that I wanted to build was designed by a guy by the name of Dirk Van Erp. Guess he was a famous lamp designer. Didn't know that was a thing.
All right.
Mm-hmm. But I just sent you guys a link to 1-800-lighting.com. You can buy the lamps. I mean, not obviously his, but they're $563. I can build it for half that.
At least. Yeah.
So that's the style of lamp that I've wanted to build for a while. Actually, my plan was to build that fairly soon for my desk gym that we've talked about, and instead I picked up one of the lamps that was in our office that I think must have been a Woodsmith project a couple years ago with the stained glass in it.
Okay.
So it kind of bumped that down the road, but I always thought that lamp would be cool to build, and it'd be fun to do some like wood veneer lamp shades and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or get like the mica panels.
Yeah, and that's what this lamp has in it, is mica panels.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. This episode of the Shop Notes Podcast is brought to you by Quick Screws. For 37 years, Quick Screws has been the trusted choice of professional and hobbyist woodworkers. Cabinet makers and furniture builders know that the right screw makes all the difference, which is why Quick Screws designs fasteners for specific woods and applications. The legendary Quick Screws pocket hole screw delivers secure, reliable joints with fine thread for hardwoods and coarse thread for general use, and high-low thread for softwoods and melamine. Want a screw that stops flush and eliminates chipping? Funnel Head does exactly that, making it the top choice for melamine and a great fit for all woods. From drawer fronts to installation and conformat screws, even exterior rated fasteners, Quick Screws are built for speed, precision, and reliability. Find the perfect screw for your shop or build at your local distributor or at quickscrews.com. All right, this week on the TV show, we are working on our second to last episode for the season. And it's a mid-century bar that was actually designed by our shop craftsman, Mark Hopkins. He did a version of it, and then Dylan drew up the plans and did a slightly different version using some different materials just to change up the look. And it's mostly plywood, and we're using veneer tape on the exposed edges, which is not something we normally show in the magazine. And I have to say that I was biased against veneer tape for a long time, and I think that was mainly because of crappy flat pack old furniture rather than anything about the veneer tape itself. Because I did a set of built-ins last year where I used hard maple plywood, and then because I didn't want to do a ton of veneer tape or hardwood edging and glue it all on, I used veneer tape and was surprised on how nice it looked and how easy it was to work with when it was put on. Thoughts? Comments?
I'm still biased against it.
Yeah. When done right and done well, I think it's fine. I mean, I wouldn't, but
you do you. There you go.
Meth is fun, but I wouldn't do it.
No, yeah, I wouldn't. I mean, but yeah, I haven't used it on any of my personal projects, in a while. But yeah, it's fine. It's quick, gets the job done, can look good. I mean, look fine, whatever. But I think it looks good on I think it looks good on the bar that that we're doing now, and that was in the magazine. So it's not like it's not a main feature. So
see, okay, I have a problem with it because I feel as though it never actually gets a good bond. Now, I'm saying this based solely on my experience with like the iron-on banding.
Right.
And I feel like that always has a tendency to peel off.
Yeah.
It might,
or if you're just in normal use, cut that or catch the edges and rip it off.
Yeah, like and maybe that's just my experience with poor application of it, and I've only used it a couple of times, not very often. I think if you start like to talk about industrial edge banding with an edge banding machine, I think that's different. I'm not saying it's any better,
right.
But I'm saying I think the adhesive's certainly better. So I think there you're probably a lot less likely to have that issue.
Right.
So
I could see that. I think my experience in the past was edge banding on particle board is just a losing proposition anyway, because it's such a porous substrate. Because it's the cut edge, it's not even the face. So it's going to be more difficult to get a decent bond there.
Yeah.
I've only used, I know they have like the small little hot plate kind of things to apply the edge banding. I've only ever used like an old household iron, and I felt like I got a decent bond with that. So I think it also depends on where and how you're applying the edge banding. If you just take a panel and edge band all four sides, I feel like that's not quite the same, because now you have this horizontal edge banding on what should be the end grain of a solid wood panel if it were solid wood. So I think if you can restrict your edge banding to just the long grain, quote unquote, edges of a panel, and then do something different with the ends, I believe is a better application of that.
I think sometimes when I've done this too, maybe the iron's been too hot where it's heated the glue up too much, and then it doesn't like stick down right away. Like it kind of peels back up because the glue's still hot as you're applying pressure. So that's probably something you need to fine tune as you're doing it as well. But
yeah. Related to that, just something we were discussing earlier today is, Logan, you had an issue with plastic laminate.
Yeah. An issue I've never had before. Colin and I did Colin pretty much put it together. I shot it. A Dust Deputy cart. So it's a cart designed around Onaya's Dust Deputy separator system. So it houses vacuum, Dust Deputy, all the vacuum accessories, some storage on there for like sander. So the design is to be like kind of a mobile work surface. It's pretty tall, but it's still a work surface. And we laminated the top, and we did it with the brush on, roll on contact cement. And this was, probably January, February when we did it. So it's been a couple months.
Okay.
Looked great. Finished it out. I didn't have a time frame that this was going into the magazine, so we didn't haul it into the office and spray it with lacquer yet. But now it's going in the next issue of Popwood, so we needed to finish it. So I threw it in the truck today, and it's been out in the storage side of the shop, just to stay out of the way. And as soon as I cleared the stuff off the top, I noticed there was a huge bubble / wrinkle in the plastic laminate. And I'm like, how the hell does that happen? Like, it is plastic. It is glued down. the birch plywood's not moving. Like, what is going on here? I was like, you know what? At this point, I just got to get in there and we'll figure out a solution to it. And did not realize that Chris Fitch had worked at a plastic laminate company.
Yeah, the mini lives of Chris Fitch.
Yeah. But he's like, oh yeah, that stuff will expand and contract. He said it more often expands than anything if it's humid. And I was like, okay, so if it's glued down and expands, that material has to go somewhere. And it obviously buckled in the center. And we had chamfered the edge, as one generally does with Formica, chamfer it to keep it from peeling up. And you could feel a little bit of a lip around that chamfer where the entire sheet had expanded slightly. And it actually had expanded enough that when we started pulling up the laminate, it came up pretty easy. Like, I don't know if it just sheared now I know my adhesive I had here was old. So that probably didn't help, but it expanded enough that it sheared the contact cement and came up pretty easily. So
yeah,
weird.
That was shocking to me.
Yeah, weird. So
what was your contact adhesive? Was it the solvent stuff or water-based?
Solvent, Weldwood. Yep. Okay. So, yep. You know what? Maybe that one. We may have opened a new can when we did that one. I'll have to go back and look at the photos and see. We may have opened a new can because I remember buying a new can. Because I do remember last time we used it, it was kind of pasty instead of goopy. So, but yeah, it was just odd. Not an issue I've had before. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it was really surprising because sometimes you'd think, sure, you sometimes don't get a decent bond and you have like a little bit where it starts to peel up. But this was a legit bubble where the middle of the bubble was a solid, I don't know, almost 3/16 off the surface.
Oh, easy. Yeah.
Or
yeah.
more.
Yeah. It was very odd.
Yeah. And for Chris to just walk in and be, oh yeah, that's what happens. It sometimes does that.
Thanks for the heads up, Chris.
All right. You got any more progress on the church doors, Logan?
No.
To report?
No. Spent the week last week in China, so I didn't get much work done. They are still in the shape I left them. I do need to start, after I get this issue shipped off, I'm going to start breaking down panels, getting panels routed and stuff like that. So I do have finished samples ready for the church to grab. So need to hopefully steer them away from staining and just into a clear finish. That would be great, especially since this is pro bono. I guess I could probably just say, hey, we're putting a clear finish on it, but I don't. I like people to get what they want. Except Jim. He gets me talking. Poke.
Yep, poke the bear. John, what's been on your design calendar recently?
Well, I got the platform bed and matching nightstand that goes with the cherry dresser that was in last issue or the issue before. I think it was last issue. That's in the shop now. Mark's working on it. I think that's going pretty well. He's only come in and bothered me about dimensions one time, so nothing catastrophic has happened yet. Fingers crossed. So that's in the shop. Starting to work on, I guess for lack of a better term, table saw cart or cabinet to go under our table saw in the video studio. So we've had kind of an issue with storage at the table saw, kind of just chuck everything on the shelf there. So see what I can come up with, and we'll build that for ourselves, and then I think throw that into ShopNotes magazine in the upcoming issue. So those are always fun, seeing what you come up with for storage and shop projects.
Yeah, one of the best things about that Grizzly table saw that we have here in the video studio is that it's got a really wide side support table for the 52-inch fence rails. And then there's an outfeed table, great for long parts and panels and stuff like that. And underneath them is a shelf for, to be honest, here it's just a junk collector. And it's another example of why I built a cabinet-based workbench, because just one shelf is really poor use of that space, because stuff just piles on it. It gets all loaded up with dust and chips that float around, and then you have a bunch of open air space that just doesn't get any use. So
we have a wall hung table saw storage cabinet, but it's clear across the shop, and we cannot be bothered to walk back and forth. So chuck it under the table saw.
Right.
I was gonna say that's one of
it's got to be present.
That's one of the best features of that saw, and it's one of the worst features of that saw. Yeah. There is lots of room to store stuff, but there's lots of room to store stuff without organizing it.
Yeah. Which I kind of get. Like, it's just an open stand. That's fine. I don't know how else, for a manufacturer, there are so many ways that you could organize that space. It's almost impossible to come up with something that would satisfy everybody.
Yeah.
So that's where we're just looking
for, right. So we're just looking for a way to put like your extra dado blade or your other crosscut blade or the push blocks or the little fence clamps to hold on an auxiliary fence, and an auxiliary fence for that matter. Or when you're ripping boards, what do you do with your crosscut sled or miter gauge fence and that kind of thing? So
yeah. So think about that saw. There is what would that be? Height adjustment? No, it would be tilt.
No,
it would be bevel on that right-hand side of that saw. So, like, are you leaving a hole, like an access hole, or what's the thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I was originally looking at it. The saw has the table on the one side, and the saw is 32 inches deep, and so originally I was just like, oh, we'll put make a little cabinet that sits on the shelf underneath, but the shelf is only like 15 inches deep. So if I do that, then drawers are way back underneath the top. So
right.
I was thinking just take that whole bottom shelf out and then either put in a cart or a cabinet to the right side, leaving, the space for the crank access and everything, and making it as deep as what the top is. So I think it's, around 32 inches deep, which is pretty deep for a cart. Like if you were putting drawers in that, those would be pretty deep drawers. So I was thinking of like two-sided, so you could access it from the back and the front. So like maybe drawers on the user side and then either bins or
clamp storage
drawers on the other side. Yeah, something on the back, so it's not like you're trying to pull out or fill up really deep drawers. So that's kind of what I was thinking. So
that's cool. Table saw stuff on one side and just extra gear on the other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's always fun, because I was thinking just a cabinet that would go underneath there.
Yeah. Yeah, it could just it could definitely just be a stationary cabinet, but then throw casters on it that you can pull it out and set stuff on it if you don't want it on the table saw wing. If you need to move the fence over, or just more flat surfaces to clutter up. So
always need a few extra flat surfaces to clutter stuff up with.
Yeah.
Especially around here. We just don't know what to do with them.
We use them up too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We should like put a timer or stopwatch on, like anytime we create a flat surface, how long does it take to get something put on it or cluttered up? Because the game table that we finished up a few weeks ago is now a staging area and gatherer of stuff. So it's one of those life axioms like we talked about. It's just fundamental truth.
Mm-hmm.
It will happen.
Yep. It's easy for things to get in the way of actually completing a project all the way. Like that game table is what, like 90% there?
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to sell it through consignment for one of the game stores in town here. But there's a couple of accessories for it that I want to make, and we have to make the little access holes to be able to get the removable leaves out. Otherwise, they're harder to remove. So
they become permanent.
Yeah. And maybe one more coat of finish on it just to even out the shine.
I think we lacquer it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just finding time to do that when we got all the other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Much like projects in my own shop. So, one last thing before we check out here, Woodworking in America. We've talked about it already before, but now the website is actually live. woodworkinginamerica.com. You can check out the speakers and start signing up. Reserve your spot now for it. Put it on the calendar. And we're really looking forward to this particular version of it. One of the things to look forward to is Logan knows a guy about getting some really nice coffee mugs for this year's event. So going to make sure you have your mug ready for whatever you choose to put inside of it.
We don't judge.
Right. Yep. Make a great soup mug, hot chocolate.
Liquor?
Yep. If you're trying to cut down on your coffee intake and just drink the Baileys straight.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. So anyway, check that out. This episode of the ShopNotes Podcast is brought to you by Harvey Woodworking. Harvey Industries, when good enough is not good enough. See all of our new tools at harveywoodworking.com. Really appreciate everybody who listens and comments on the show. It's the source of content for future episodes and rage to keep us going. So if you want to send us an email, you can do that, woodsmith@woodsmith.com. Put something in on the comments section on our YouTube channel as well. That's another great feature on there. And then I think just one note of behind the scenes-ness is I think in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be moving the video version of the ShopNotes podcast to its own channel, where we will be putting it on its own channel to be able to generate more views and get its own little identity there. So if you do start to see that happening in the next few weeks, in late April, early May of 2025, that's what's happening. So we'll put more notes out about it as that transition occurs. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time on the ShopNotes Podcast. Bye.